Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so on, this defense in Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
We're going to be talking about and going into a deep dive on the AFC North. Kyle and I are also going to talk about the top 30 players over the age of 30. And then we're going to do a little bit of NFL news on the back end. And of course, we're going to end it off with the chives with Kyle. Let's get it. America is football. Football is America.
Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass.
For the moment in time, I don't give a damn.
Oh my god!
You loved it.
30 to 27.
No!
Chiefs win. Chiefs
No!
win 30 to 20. Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Only Football Podcast. I'm Kyle, and that's Rick.
I'm like this guy.
And the 2024 NFL season is quickly approaching, and we are almost done with our last month without football.
Let's go.
Just-
Let's fucking go.
We made it. We officially made it. Not quite, but it feels like this last month and a half is just going to fly by. I can already tell. And we have been going through each division, and we've been breaking down, doing a deep dive of how we think it's going to play out, doing kind of a prediction and all of that. And today it's time to turn our attention to the always competitive AFC North. And always competitive. And this year, I will say right off the bat, will not be an exception. The AFC North is going to be tougher than it was last year. And last year, it was the best division in football. The Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are all competitive teams, and that's the teams that make up the AFC North. Right off the bat, when we talk about the AFC North, at least I can say this for other divisions, like we did the AFC South. Right when we start that, I know the Texans are my team, right? Right when you do the AFC West, you know the Chiefs are your team. Right when you do the AFC East, you're probably going with the Bills or maybe the Dolphins. But when you do the AFC North, you find yourself in a weird predicament where you could actually make a case for every single one of these teams to be your favorite team. And it's going to be another intense battle for the division winner, whoever it's going to be. And today we're going to do a little preview of what we think is going to happen. Right off the bat, Rick, when you look at the AFC North, what are your immediate thoughts about these four teams?
Immediate thoughts are defense. Defense rules this division. The defenses on all four teams are ridiculous. And really, I think the top two, I would probably go with the Browns. And man, if you're making me pick between the Steelers and the Ravens, I might have to go Steelers. Might.
Wow.
But the AFC North is like defense, and it has been that way since I've been watching football. And that was like 2005, 2004. It has just been a defensive-minded division. these are all teams in the northeastern part of the world. Northeastern part of the world of the U.S. I should say. The U.S. is the world, I guess, to me. But they play in cold environments. They play in nasty environments. The defenses on those teams are nasty every single day. They all play outside. It's just the divisions is crazy, and defense comes to mind when you mention the words AFC North.
Yeah, the Ravens are the AFC North favorites when it comes to betting. They won the division last year with a 13-4 record. Baltimore was one of the NFL's best teams on both sides of the football. And like you said, not just defense, but offense. Lamar Jackson led the charge. He has an MVP season, nearly 3,700 yards, 24 touchdowns through in the air, while adding 821 on the ground with 5 touchdowns. Cool. Lamar Jackson was, like I said, the MVP last year, and there's really no reason to predict any slowdown as he's kind of in his prime right now, still going into his prime. The Ravens offense was already dangerous when you look at the pieces that they have, but now you can make a case that they're even more dangerous because Derrick Henry is on the team. And we're going to kind of do this thing that's a little different than the other divisions, where we're going to say the one thing that has to happen for each team. And right off the bat, I'm going to give you my what did I call it?
Non-negotiables.
The non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And let me give some credit to the Rich Eisen show for planting this seed. I love the idea. So we're going to talk about the non-negotiables for the Ravens right off the bat. My non-negotiable is that Derrick Henry has to make an immediate impact on this team. 13-4, a team that most people were predicting to go to the Super Bowl, especially at the level of football that Lamar Jackson was playing. But what happened in that Kansas City game? They refused to run the football in the second half. And also just never had a legitimate threat in the backfield. Lamar Jackson kind of, for I think like the last 4 years, maybe the year he's been healthy, he has led the Ravens offense in rushing yards. Ideally, it would be nice to have a running back lead the team. So I like the fact that Lamar Jackson runs with the football. So don't get this twisted. I think that this is a great compliment to what Lamar Jackson does. There's a yin and a yang style here. Lamar Jackson is going to beat you with finesse, and Derrick Henry is going to just punch you in the mouth and beat you with power. That's a really intricate balance that the Ravens have now that they haven't had in my entire time watching the Ravens with Lamar Jackson. So we talk about Derrick Henry. What kind of Derrick Henry are they going to get? And a lot of people have been saying that Derrick Henry has taken a step down. I've said this point 4 times. Where are we stepping down from? Okay, Derrick Henry stepping down from running for 2,000 yards. So he's still running for 1,700. Yeah, that's still 3rd out of every running back PFF in the league. So 2 things can be true. Derrick Henry can be on a decline from his prime, and he's still, the top 3 running back in the NFL. Both things can be true. And if that's the Derrick Henry they get, I could see how you could make a real case that that's the piece that will take the Ravens to that Super Bowl and ultimately win them a Super Bowl for the first time in Lamar Jackson's time with the Ravens. Because as good as Lamar has played, there's another quarterback in the division that has been in the league fewer years, has only played 1 full healthy season, and he's already been to a Super Bowl. We can't say that about Lamar Jackson. So I think Derrick Henry joining the backfield is the non-negotiable for the Ravens.
Okay. So my non-negotiable for the Ravens to make the playoffs. We talked about Lamar Jackson, how it just always seems like he's playing at an MVP level. The Ravens really didn't do much on the wide receiver side of the ball, at least in this offseason. So for me, my non-negotiable, the Baltimore Ravens wide receiving core has got to step it up and just be there for Lamar Jackson. They've got to be these prime wide receivers. Looking at Zay Flowers, as well as oh my God, what's his name? Mark Andrews. Yes, he's a tight end. Yes, he was hurt. He still plays a huge role in this offense. But again, mostly looking at the wide receivers. Again, Zay Flowers was number one last year. I think he had just over 850 yards, followed by Odell Beckham Jr. at 565.
I called it.
What?
I said Zay Flowers was my favorite rookie wide receiver in the class fantasy-wise.
There you go. So Kyle already knew that kind of going into last season. And Zay Flowers did a lot of good last season, even as a rookie. He had that really bad mistake, obviously that fumble in the playoff game last postseason. And again, we've got to give him some grace. He was a rookie, but now coming into year 2, he's going to be looked at as wide receiver 1. Next to Mark Andrews. Why do I keep forgetting his fucking name? Mark Andrews. We don't do names here. We don't do names.
Nope, never have, never will.
What'd you say?
Never have, never will.
Never have. Are non-negotiable. Do not know, remember, or be able to pronounce names correctly.
Yes.
On the Elite Football Podcast. So for me, it is the wide receiving core that needs to step it up. It is the non-negotiable. Like you said about the running back position with the Ravens, it just seems like the offense is Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews when he's healthy. Isaiah Likely did emerge a bit in absence of Mark Andrews. But it just does seem like it is just Lamar Jackson passes to Mark Andrews. Lamar Jackson runs a crazy route. Oh, yeah. And also their receivers caught 15 passes for 73 yards. And it's like, what is this? Like, what is this? Who are we throwing it to? Who else are your weapons? So I got to go with the wide receiving core on this, on the Ravens.
Yeah. And I think you make a really good point. So the Ravens, like I said, they're the favorite to claim the title as far as betting goes. I got to say, the Bengals are a team that is going to really threaten. And we talk about this all the time, how recency bias is just such a blinding thing. Like everyone picks the Ravens to win the division. But keep in mind, the Ravens won the division last year for the first time since 2019. Joe Burrow was drafted in 2020. There are 3 teams from the AFC North that earned a playoff spot, and the Bengals just missed the postseason. They ended the season as the 8th seed without their starting quarterback, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow missed 7 games due to a wrist injury, and the Bengals were still an 8th seed, and their offensive coordinator and quarterback coach and head coach, Zach Taylor, they had Jake Browning looking really good, in my opinion. I thought Jake Browning looked really good. So will the Ravens be able to hold off, the divisional rivals for a second year in the row? And it really depends if Joe Burrow is going to be healthy, which brings me to my non-negotiable for the Bengals. Joe Burrow has to be healthy for a full season. We've only seen that happen one time since he was drafted. It's kind of weird. Pocket quarterback, doesn't run a lot, doesn't, put himself in injury risk, but playing behind not so great offensive line. And the one season that we had as a full season without any injuries, the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. So we know that the most important thing, I think, the non-negotiable, is that the Bengals have to keep Joe Burrow healthy. Easier said than done, but they made some moves with the offensive line. I think this is a season where you could expect Joe Burrow to be healthy.
Yeah, and they showed that by taking Amarius Mims in that first round at pick number 18. For the Bengals, for me, this one was a tough one because, yes, the biggest reason that the Bengals made it to the Super Bowl the year that Joe Burrow was healthy was because of just that. Joe Burrow was healthy. There is no issues at wide receiver. The offensive line, again, that's the reason they took Amarius Mims. They need to protect their guy. I think I'm going to go with the running back position here for my non-negotiable. Zach Moss, they just picked him up in free agency. They did some pretty good. He did some pretty good things in Indianapolis while Jonathan Taylor was dealing with his contract negotiations, this and that, whatever. Zach Moss has showed that he can definitely, absolutely be a high level running back. As he showed with the Colts, and to some extent with the Bills as well when he was with the on that team. But they did get rid of Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon was a staple on that team. He was a very productive and very consistent veteran running back there in Cincinnati. So now it's time for Zach Moss to go into this team and be like, hey, you are our number one. This isn't no longer like, hey, we need you as a placeholder for this running back who's going to come in week 8, week 9, week 10, whatever the case may be. So you need to show out. That was the situation last year for him, and he got rewarded with a contract with the Bengals now. It's just, can he do that consistently for, 17 games? Because if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to look here real quick. Actually, I've got this up. Don't believe he has been a starter or has started all 16 games games started, 3 total games started, and that was all with the Indianapolis Colts. So can he actually be a starter in this league? He's going to find out, and the NFL is going to find out come next season. And then obviously the Bengals also have Chase Brown, who was a rookie last year out of University of Illinois. He didn't do too bad. There were some times when he came in and there was somewhat of like an electric feeling, like he gave a spark to the team offensively.
With electric feel.
Electric feel. I love that song when they're in when they're doing it live and Kid Cudi comes out high as fuck and just starts dancing. He's like, oh, it's great. It's great. I love it. But yes, this Chase Brown was able to kind of give a spark to that offense. And again, Chase Brown, University of Illinois guy. I like University of Illinois. They're one of my 4 college teams that I root for. So I've got a bit of a bias there. But again, can Zach Moss be an every week starter for the Bengals? That's going to be my non-negotiable. The defense, I think, seems okay. They are struggling there, but my non-negotiable for the Bengals to make the playoffs, you already said Joe Burrow, so I'm going to go with the running backs in this case.
Yeah, and with the Ravens, if I had to have another non-negotiable, it would be that they finish with a good record in their division. Whenever you have a tough division, it's really important that you finish the division strong, because that's ultimately going to determine how the seeding works. And when you look at the Ravens last year, they finished 3-3 in the division. They only lost 4 games all year, and 3 of them were divisional games. And the Steelers actually topped the division with a record of 5-1, and they swept the Ravens. They went 5-1 in the most tough division. So before we rule out Mike Tomlin and stuff, my non-negotiable for the Pittsburgh Steelers is that they finish with the best record in the division. So if they can finish with a record of 5-1 again, I think that there's a really good chance that the Steelers are not just in the playoffs, but they're one of the better teams in the playoffs. I mean, you look at the Steelers and they add, both of our quarterbacks, we were just talking about this, 2 quarterbacks that you and I both have had. And now the Steelers are going to have to figure out which one they want to go with. They're the best team in the division last year. Sweeping the Bengals and the Ravens is no easy feat for anybody, especially when you don't even have a quarterback. Kenny Pickett was here and there, and then Mason Rudolph. It's actually scary to think what the Steelers can do with competent quarterback play if they can keep their defense playing at a high level. And that brings me to my non-negotiable kind of, I got A, B. B is that TJ Watt stays healthy. When TJ Watt is on the field, the Steelers are one of the most dominant defenses in the league. But TJ Watt does get injured a lot. He just lays out, he puts his body on the line. So if the Steelers can, I'm not saying fix their issues at quarterback, I'm saying Russell Wilson play the same level he played for the Broncos last year, if they can just get 15, 14, right there in the middle, the Steelers actually are in an interesting situation. But make no mistake about it, the Steelers have an identity. They drafted tough physical players, a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of just dirty, grinding players that are just going to punch you in the mouth. And this Steelers team is a blast from the past kind of a year. We haven't seen the Steelers kind of take on this identity in some time. So they're going to, and Najee Harris is on a contract year too. So I think my non-negotiable is that TJ Watt stays healthy and the Ravens finish with the best record in their division.
Ooh, okay. I like that. I like the TJ Watt thing. Got to stay healthy because he's such a just a game wrecker when he's on the field. So I mean, it really is that. That's a huge person, huge player for their team. My non-negotiable, I think it's pretty easy, and I think I'm going to go with the obvious pick here is figure out who the fuck is going to be quarterback, right? I think as of now, Russ is the guy. But Russ struggled in Denver a ton last year. He had his career worst yards per throw or yards per throw average, whatever it was, at like 6.9 yards or something like that. It was bad. So you get rid of, Deontay Johnson. Yes, you have George Pickens there, and he was your leading wide receiver last year with 1,140 yards. And then after that, it was Deontay Johnson. They got rid of him. After that, it was Jaylen Warren, the running back. So I don't know. I just it needs to be a decision. I don't know who's going to make the decision. I am assuming it's going to be Mike Tomlin. Obviously, they got training camp and preseason to go through this. But who gives you your better chance to win? Who gives you your better chance to get the ball in the hands of Deontay Johnson and your other wide receivers? Is it going to be a guy coming off his worst yards per throw average in Russ Wilson? Or is it going to be someone who was very, very inconsistent in terms of throwing, in terms of decision-making with Justin Fields? Honestly, I know that Russ is probably leading the way right now, and I believe that's been said as well by Mike Tomlin. Like, Russ is number one right now, and then, Justin Fields is two. But I think I might have to lean Fields for them here. I think I called it right at one time in the middle of the season. I said there's going to be a game where Russ looks like absolute dog shit and Justin Fields is going to be plugged in, and that's going to cause a spark. But will it be enough of a spark to last the rest of the season, or completely, bench Russ Wilson? Because they only owe him like the veterans minimum at this point. So it's not going to be a very expensive experiment or situation for the Steelers to kind of work through. But in this division where you have a very, very good offense and you've got some very good players on both the defense and offense, you won 10 games last year. You were 5-1 against the division. At no point in time, I don't think Steelers fans right now are thinking rebuild. They're thinking like, we got to figure out our quarterback situation and we can win 10 games again next year, possibly. Because everyone in the AFC North right now is pretty much looking at this division as we are, and we're outsiders. Kyle and I both have a little part to do with the Steelers because, ex-QBs, ex-lovers, ex-girlfriends are there. And, we've got a bit of stake in this because we're kind of like, see, told you it wasn't good. That's why we got rid of him. But yeah, I really think that's the situation. Us outside looking in, if you're an AFC North fan, you're probably like, maybe I hope the Steelers don't figure this shit out. I hope both quarterbacks are terrible and they have to get a third stringer or they have to bring in a practice squad guy. But to me, the non-negotiable is figure out who your quarterback is and figure out the game plan for the season. Because if not, you've seen what teams without a steady quarterback situation looks like, and they're not making the playoffs that year. They're not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who steps up, whether it's Field or Wilson. But I think it's going to be Russell Wilson. Like, you bring in a veteran. The one thing, though, is that he's on the veteran minimum. So it's not like Denver, where they had so much money invested in him that they just had to ride it out.
Yeah.
Let's ride.
Let's ride.
We don't want to ride.
We're fucking
get
nerds.
off the ride, please. I don't want to ride. I don't want to ride.
I'm throwing up. Get me off the ride.
But so I could see the Steelers pulling Russ, like you said, if Russ crumbles under pressure or anything like that. But the one thing about the Steelers and why I don't really think it matters, like it might be tempting to bet on the Steelers to make a playoff push because they made the playoffs last year and arguably are in a better quarterback position now. But I have never in my entire life seen a schedule more tough than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their schedule this year, I've never seen anything like it. Every single game is ridiculous. It's going to be a very, very brutal schedule. And I don't know if 15-14 is going to cut it. They're going to need top 10. Now, Russ playing with a defensive-minded coach, kind of like Pete Carroll, maybe he can tap into some of what Russ used to do. Najee Harris, if he can get back to a level, you mentioned Warren, if they can get a 1-2 punch and maybe just grind out these games. It's really hard, though, to just rule out the Steelers because the Steelers have won the division more times than any other team in this division in the past 20 years or whatever it is. So since 2002, actually, Pittsburgh has walked away with 9 of a possible 22 division titles. The Ravens ranked second with 7, and the Bengals won the other 6. So the Steelers have just been such a consistent team that it's hard to rule them out because when you do, chances are statistically you're wrong. The Steelers find a way to win football games. They're well coached, but when you look at the schedule, it is so brutal that I'm just like, look, I'm not betting on the Steelers to win this division. And if you guys want to do it at your own risk, I'm staying away from that because
for all you bettors out there.
Yeah, exactly. And really quick, let me just tell you their final stretch here. So they're gonna start the season against the Falcons. That's going to be a tough game, right off the bat. Then they go to Denver and play the Broncos. That's the Broncos season opener. That's going to be a tough game to win in Denver, especially with Russ returning. There's going to be
Russ, real quick. Russ had basically a trip back home in his first season as the Broncos quarterback. Lost that one. Is he going to go 0 for 2 for coming back home type games?
It's time for an official announcement on the Only Football podcast.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will be at that Broncos Steelers game. And
shit.
It is the season opener. I was at the season opener last year. The year before I went to the season opener in Seattle. I'm beyond excited for it. But yeah, the stakes will be high. This will probably be the one Broncos game I go to this year, but I'm really excited about it. It's gonna be a good game, and I wanted to announce it here.
Hell yeah, I love it. And if the I don't want to say this, but I think it'd be funny. If the Steelers beat the Broncos, Kyle if the Steelers beat the Broncos, Kyle is a mush for his team. They'll be 0 for 3 in the last 3 games you've been to.
0 and 4.
0 and 4. Oh no!
What game did you go to? I went to that Dolphins game. That was going to be.
I was counting that one. So you went to Seattle.
You
went to
Raiders home opener.
Oh, you went to the Raiders game. I didn't know about that one. I don't know for some
Bronco games in the first 3 weeks of the season. So I went to the Broncos Raiders home opening game week 1. Week 2,
man.
the Broncos played at home again against who was it? Hold on. Who's that defensive? The Commanders.
Commanders, yeah.
And then that's when they threw the Hail Mary and it got caught. And it was like, oh, and then they didn't get the 2-point conversion when it was clearly pass interference on Cortland Sutton that didn't get called. So then they were 0-2. And then I was like, surely, week 3. And that was in Miami. And I was like, and then, 70.
I remember just Kyle telling me the story of when he was still here in Washington and he went to the game in against the Seattle Seahawks. And it was Russ, coming back to Seattle. His first game as a Denver Bronco or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then just hearing and seeing what transpired in that game and then hearing Kyle's perspective of it, I was like, that fucking sucks, dude. But yes, Kyle so far in the last couple seasons has been a mush for the Broncos.
Yeah, but it's not me, man. It's the team. I mean,
it is the team. It is the team.
They lose when I'm not there too. So. But yeah,
no, I swear.
Bill's right. I'm going to 2 Bronco games. I guess I should have clarified. That's the one Bronco home game that I'll be going to this year. And we have Harrison Cable in the chat, and he said, "Let's go Ravens all the way this year." So, Ravens fan entering the chat. We were just talking about how the Ravens are betting favorites to win the division, and then we talked about some of the non-negotiables, and we just got done with the Steelers. So let's move to the Browns. Because the Browns, there's a non-negotiable here, and a lot of people are thinking it, but my non-negotiable might be different. I'll just say it doesn't have anything to do with the quarterback position because the Browns last year proved that they can get the job done for the simple fact that they have one of the best defenses in the NFL. When the Browns are playing their best defense, when they come out with the boombox on their shoulder, I'll whoop your head, boy.
Boy,
I'll whoop your head, boy. I mean, they're a squad, and they got a really good way about them. They're coached really well. Their offense, it was kind of concerning that they seemed to gel better when Joe Flacco came in than they did with Deshaun Watson, but the fact of the matter is when your defense is holding you to 16 points a game, you're still going to have a chance to go to the playoffs no matter who your quarterback is. And that's like my non-negotiable here, because regardless of the type of quarterback play that they have, if they have the NFL's best defense, they're probably still going to go to the playoffs. That's how it works. Like if you hold your opponents to 15, 16 points a game, the chances are you're going to be in the playoffs, even with a 25th best quarterback in the league. Ideally, if Deshaun Watson does get back to the level that he was expected to be at when he came from the Texans, then, of course, you can start talking about bigger games, whether it's a championship game or a Super Bowl. You can start having those type of expectations. But the Browns, some people say that they won't have success until Deshaun Watson lives up to his contract value. It just really depends on what you define success as.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to be one of those people. I am going to go with Deshaun Watson being the non-negotiable. I do want to touch, though, on the defense there, too, because they were very, very good, but I didn't realize that they were bottom half of the league in opposing points per game, as well as red zone scoring percentage for the opposition. Dead last in opposing red zone scoring percentage, 71% scoring percentage for the opposition last year, and then 21 for opposing points per game. So if anything, like, that defense is still a monster defense. You still got a shit ton of names on there, and the way they're able to execute during the game is great. It's just like once it gets to the red zone, they've got to figure something out because they're letting up the most touchdowns in the entire last season in the red zone. So,
but the stat is kind of flawed if you think about it, because you think of their defensive front. So they got Zadarius Smith, Myles Garrett, and Dalvin Tomlinson, and they are a nightmare for opposing teams. So let's say that you're ranking red zone efficiency or deficiency defensively based on how a percentage of red zone trips that turn into touchdowns. Well, if there's other teams in the league that, let's say, like the Bears, they allowed a team to get into the red zone 150 times, and 70 of the time.
Yep.
So for the Browns, it could be like 55 times their opponent got into the. So I just need to see like how they're ranking that, because
that's true.
The Browns. How could it be that they're the worst red zone team or one of the worst red zone teams, but they're giving up one of the league's fewest points? That just seems like contradicting.
So, yeah, and that's fair actually too, because we've seen that you can manipulate stats to a certain degree. Like you said, if they let opponents into the red zone 50 times, and what is it, like 37 times they scored, but only 50 times compared to over 100 for all the other teams, and of course they're going to be last. So that makes that actually that's a good argument for that. My non-negotiable again is going to be Deshaun Watson. $230 million guaranteed. The only quarterback to get that type of contract. Zero return so far on investment in my eyes. He has started, I think, of total of 12 or 11 games in 2 seasons. Not what you want your $230 million quarterback to do, right? He only returned his first season in week 13 he returned, week 14, something like that.
Yeah.
So the first season,
12.
Yeah, week 12 or 13 it was. So the first season was basically a wash. All the games he played that season, it was like, well, he hasn't been able to do barely any football activities. Totally fair. He was fighting his court case. He was not allowed to be in the facilities. And then when he did come back and was finally able to do that, obviously there were some things that were missing. His timing, throwing, strength, just play calling, all that stuff, meshing with the offense, with your receivers, with your running back, getting your count, right where you want it. All these little things that you have to work on during the off season and, during the season just weren't there. Second season, gets injured. You can't hold anybody accountable for injuries. You get hurt, man. I mean, if it was up to anybody, nobody would get hurt. No quarterbacks would be getting hurt. Joe Burrow would have been playing all of last season, and they probably would have been in the playoffs last year. So injuries, you can't hold them against them. But there were some times during the games that he played that he did not look good at all. Like he did not look like a starter. He just didn't. And so the return on investment so far in this deal is just not good. So year 3, I feel like he's going to be under a lot of pressure, not only from the team, but from fans. Like, you're telling me our organization paid $230 million for this shit, right? If he just starts to struggle and I'm sorry to say, Kyle, but if he starts looking like Russ with the Broncos year 2, or was it year 2 or year 3? Year 3, right? Last year was year 2. Okay. Last year was year 2. If he starts looking like that, you're as a Cleveland Brown fan, you're like, we're fucked. We've got a good defense. Sure. We've got some good talent here on the offense, but we just don't have a quarterback. We don't. And this might be the curse of Baker Mayfield if he doesn't continue, to produce as well. This is going to be the curse of Baker Mayfield in the State Farm commercials. I'm just telling you right now. This is going to be the curse of Baker Mayfield if the Cleveland Browns cannot get to the playoffs, 1, and 2, if they do make it, win in the playoffs.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't think that's going to happen. Because when Deshaun Watson was last on the field, before his shoulder injury, he was having his best game. It seemed like he was starting to click. Now there are
Wrong.
there are question marks about their receiving core. First off, Jerry Judy's never panned out, and they just paid him I think $80 million. So
Yeah.
is Jerry Judy going to help take some of the pressure off of Amari Cooper? And when is Nick Chubb expected to be back in the fold? Because Nick Chubb is arguably a top 3-4 running back in the NFL. He's just been the definition of consistent, and all he does is just get 4 or 5 yards a carry. I mean,
Yeah.
he's an absolute beast on the field, but we don't really have a timetable for his return, if I'm not mistaken. I think we tried to look into it a couple times, and there's really no information that's been out there. But the
Yeah.
Browns are an intriguing dark horse, in my opinion, just because of the defense that they have. And they're going to that defense is going to keep them in football games. But you're right. There's valid concerns about Deshaun Watson because he hasn't regained his Pro Bowl form. Just 4
Yeah.
years ago, this guy led the NFL in passing yards. That seems like a long time ago. I mean, his career has been in disarray since 2020, and now it's 2024, and the years are starting to pile up, and people are starting to doubt whether he has what it takes to lead this team to a division title, let alone a Super Bowl. So I still think that without what your non-negotiable is, I think they could still sneak into a wild card spot. But that's still a pretty bleak outlook when you pay somebody $260 million guaranteed. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that one.
And the one thing, at least with Deshaun Watson, because we're seeing now, right? And it really started with Tom Brady. Quarterbacks playing well into their 30s. A lot of these rules are now designed to protect quarterbacks, and why not? Quarterbacks are the most important position in sports. So why not, get your superstars to stay out there for more games and then more seasons, playing into what was Tom Brady, 42, 43, something like that?
Yeah, 42,
and then
40, maybe 43.
Yeah, and you've got Aaron Rodgers at 40 years old. Like, you go to a team who's desperate for a quarterback in the Jets, and people like me prior to last season were already like, these guys are going to win the division. So when you've got a guy like Aaron Rodgers playing at 40 years old and he goes on a team and people are excited about it, you know that the league is doing all they can to keep these guys protected, one, and two, maintain that longevity at the quarterback position. So really the Browns, they do have the rest of this contract guaranteed, obviously. And at only 28 years old, it's still not necessarily a prime for him, so he's still got plenty of years to prove that. It just seems like with the way that people get antsy, and especially in this case with the amount of money that he's been given, they want their quarterback to produce now. They don't want this to be all right, year 4 out of the 5-year contract that is guaranteed, maybe he'll start playing really well. It's like, no. We've got some pretty damn good pieces now. You need to start producing. At 28 years old, he can still do it. And you're right. 4 years ago, he was leading the NFL in passing yards. So it's crazy what 4 years can do to you.
Yeah. And there was just a couple other things to summarize the AFC North before we make our prediction. But one of the things is T. Higgins for the Bengals is really important. And you see this contract stuff continue to pop up. We talked about it on Monday. There is still a lot of optimism that T. Higgins is going to be on the field week 1. And Joe Burrow having Jamar Chase and T. Higgins along with an exciting rookie in Jermaine Burton, that could be a pretty good wide receiver core, maybe even one of the better ones in the league if Jermaine Burton is an upgrade over Tyler Boyd. And Cincinnati also upgraded at tight end, which this is kind of the sneaky move of the offseason for the Bengals, in my opinion, was acquiring Mike Gesicki, who is an incredible wide receiver. And you look at those 4 pieces and you look at Joe Burrow, and keep in mind, Joe Burrow didn't have an MCL, an ACL, or broken leg. He had a wrist injury,
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to expect Joe Burrow at 100% week 1. Which if that's the case, Joe Burrow should propel the Bengals back into the playoff race, and even compete with the Baltimore Ravens for the AFC North title if he can stay healthy. They have a lot of young, inexperienced defensive backs, which could backfire on them by the end of the season. But that is the good and the bad with the Bengals. I wanted to make sure we touched on them. Do you agree with me that Mike Gesicki is kind of the sneaky move of the offseason for the Bengals, because it's one that hasn't been talked about a lot, but Joe Burrow we talk about Tom Brady and how he makes all these guys better. Mike Gesicki arguably hasn't played with anybody as good as Joe Burrow, and now Joe Burrow is going to get his hands on him and a rookie, and we already know what he can do with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to say it. I got the Bengals winning this division.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Kyle's calling the Bengals. I like the addition of Gesicki. It's just, I feel like he's been a journeyman tight end for a reason, man. I don't think he's just been able to
but he's
really.
Good everywhere he went.
So then why haven't they kept him? You know what I mean? That's my question. Why hasn't he been kept on a roster? Because clearly there's something missing there for Gesicki, and whether it really is that he hasn't been in the right situation, maybe
money.
It's him.
No, it's just money.
I think it might be him though. But money. Okay, if it is money, and we're looking at his stats, which I am gonna pull up right here.
He was on the Patriots last year. Nobody was good on the Patriots last year.
Oh, that's totally fair. That is absolutely fair. So Miami, he was there for 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. His best season was in 21, 780 yards, 2 touchdowns, 73 receptions, 2 touchdowns. He had 11,
almost 100 catches.
73 receptions. Okay, I mean almost, give or take, 20, 27 catches. But I don't know.
3 games more.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Okay. I don't know, man. It's just like, if it's money, what is he expecting to get paid? I guess is my question. Right? Like, is he expecting to get, and it's kind of ridiculous to say this, I know you'll find this a little bit like, all right, that's too much. Is he expecting to get Travis Kelce money, George Kittle money, Mark Andrews money?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I don't know because if it is the money situation for him, it's like, dude, you really haven't been all that amazing in your 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons.
Okay.
As a tight end.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in 2028,
yeah,
or 2018, he was not. He was a rookie, right? 2019, he had a 60.5 overall PFF grade. He was 12th out of all tight ends in receptions, 7th for receiving touchdowns, 10th in targets, and 12th in receiving yards. So that's like a top 10, top 12, no lower than 12 tight end in 2019. In 2020, he was 12th in targets, 12th in receptions, 9th in receiving touchdowns, and 4th in receiving yards. Arguably almost a top 5 season in 2020. 2021, he was 5th in targets, 5th in receptions, 8th in receiving yards, but 27th in touchdowns. And sometimes you just don't get touchdowns, but a 68.7 PFF grade. I'm not saying that he's Travis Kelce or George Kittle. I'm not even saying that he's a top 15 tight end in the league. All I'm saying is that Joe Burrow can definitely revive his career and get him back to maybe a sneaky top 15 season. If I ranked 15 tight ends right now, he probably doesn't make the list, but I'm not saying that it's impossible. Kind of like when what's his name for the Dallas Goedert replaced him on the Eagles. He went to the Cardinals, I think.
Zach Ertz?
Zach, kind of like Zach Ertz, where it was
Okay.
like he had some
Was it
good
Ertz?
years,
Yeah, right.
but then he kind of ended up on like a couple bad teams. But
Mhm.
if Zach Ertz got traded to the Chiefs, it would be like, oh shit, Zach Ertz is
Mhm.
on the Chiefs. And now all I'm saying is Mike Gesicki has only been in the league 6 years, and he did get stuck playing in New England's offense. And
Mhm.
um, it's just possible that he is going to be a player that Joe Burrow makes a lot better. Maybe his best season yet.
I could absolutely buy that. Will he be better with Joe Burrow at quarterback? Yeah. So we got to look at his quarterbacks last year. It was Zappy, it was Mac Jones, it was a whole lot of nothing.
Happy
Oh.
sounds like a fake.
It was just a whole lot of absolutely nothing. 2020, he had Tua, and then the 2 years prior, I don't know who they had at quarterback. Was
But they had Tua, but he was 5th in targets, 5th in receptions, 8th in receiving yards. So I mean, he was with the Dolphins, and clearly he was a top 10 tight end with the Dolphins.
Well, what is weird though about Gesicki is in 2022, when when did he come in? When did their head coach come in? The Dolphins head
Mike
coach.
McDaniel.
Yeah, when did Mike McDaniel start?
I believe 2021.
Has he really been no, he hasn't been the coach that long, has he? Mike McDaniel.
He became the head coach 2022.
Okay, so 2022. Okay, because even Gesicki at 2022, this is the weird part about Gesicki is he only started one game in 2022.
Oh,
had
he probably was
5.
hurt.
No, but he played in 17 of those games. That's why I think it's really, really weird about Gesicki is he started one and played in 17. Yet when he was in, he had 32 receptions, 362 yards, and 5 touchdowns. It's like, were you only there for like red zone appearances? Is that why you only started a game, but you appeared in 17? So it's that, and you look across his career, the most he's ever started in his career was last year with the Patriots. After that, it was 9 games each in the 2020 and 21 season before McDaniels came in. And though the 2 prior years to that was 5 games in 2019 and 7 games started in 2018, which was his rookie year. So again, like what you're saying, can Joe Burrow, who really hasn't had much of a tight end, I guess you would call it someone who he just hasn't had a good tight end is what I would say. Can someone like him turn Gesicki, who can haul in some touchdowns, can he turn him into a viable option and a productive option for the Bengals? Yeah, I believe in Joe Burrow can do that to anybody, like Patrick Mahomes does, like Tom Brady used to do, like Peyton Manning. Like I believe in Aaron Rodgers. Like I believe that Joe Burrow can definitely do that to Gesicki. It's just in 6 seasons, if the most games you've ever started was 10, but you've appeared in 16 or more in your 6 seasons, like I feel like, yes, maybe you're right. There is maybe some lingering injuries, but he goes in there at certain situations. Or is he just a better blocking tight end than he is an actual receiving tight end? I don't know, man. But I can definitely buy what you're saying about Joe Burrow turning him into a viable option and a productive and consistent one. It's just his career doesn't say that, but he's also just 28 years old too. So he's still got some years to do some damage.
That's the kicker for me, is that he is young. He's still a young tight end. So I'm seeing, I just logged in. PFF has locked stats, but I have premium PFF, so I logged in.
Nice.
What a flex, right?
Yeah, I got money. Yeah, I got money, girl. I got PFF Plus.
So his run blocking has been decent. I'll say that. Offensive grades, like week 1, he was 65, 63, 60, 71. His best game of the season was Week 17 against the Bills with his 72 season grades. His best season grade was in 2020. He had a 78.1 grade in 2020.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could see him getting back. Like you said, 28 years old. There is still like, it's not like he's 34 and I'm like, maybe he could, it's like he could still have his best seasons ahead of him if him and Joe Burrow get a good rapport going.
And I mean, you see what Travis Kelce's accomplishing at 30 plus years old. So yeah, if this season, if I see that out of him, then I'll be like, okay, yeah, let's give Gesicki his fucking flowers. I just got to see it first.
Yeah, that's fair. He is 6'6" and runs a 4.5 at 245 pounds.
God damn.
And he was born the day before my mom's birth.
You said what?
He was born October 3rd. My mom was born October 4th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it really has no relevance to
absolutely nothing.
No.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. Why did you mention it, Kyle? This whole show has been absolutely ruined. I'm done. I'm fucking done.
No, come on. Yeah.
Okay.
So this division's going to be tough, and I made my bold prediction that the Bengals. I just got to go with a healthy Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has proven that he is going to win football games if he's on the field. I'm going to predict that Joe Burrow stays on the field this year. I'm going to predict that T. Higgins has a bounce back season with Joe Burrow. I'm going to predict that Jermaine Burton is an upgrade at the wide receiver 3 position, and that Jamar Chase has his normal season. I'm going to predict that the defense plays really well together and that the offensive line's improved. My one thing is Joe Mixon's gone from the team. So you mentioned Zach Moss. He's going to need to kind of pick up right where you left off when Jonathan Taylor took over for the Colts last year. If we can get that out of him, like, I don't know who's going to stop the Bengals. To be honest, the Bengals, they have everything they need. We know that they got the coach. There's really just no glaring holes on this team. The Ravens, I understand why the betting websites have them as the favorite, but there's a reason the Bengals are right behind the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens are plus 140. The Bengals are plus 165. That's just recency bias. That's how it works. Bengals haven't done anything in a while.
And that's why I've got the Ravens at number 1, winning this division too. And Kyle fucking hates. I'm talking shit on the Broncos. I'm calling Kyle a mush on today's episode. I've got the Ravens winning the division. Kyle's like, this is my nightmare. So yeah, I've got the Ravens winning, and while the Bengals have tried to improve their team, right? They've done things. Joe Mixon, the departure of him is obviously rough, but they've invested in the offensive line. They're trying to keep Joe Burrow upright. Joe Burrow needs to stay upright for me to be more confident going into this season, or any season for that matter, right? He was injured last season, so obviously, but he needs to be consistent in his health. 2 years of 22 and what it was, 22 and 10 is his record as a quarterback when he's started 16 games. I think the last games were kind of just like, yeah, we already won the division. We're not going to play this game. He's not starting. I get that. But he's 22 and 10 in 2021 and 2022. One of those years when he made the Super Bowl. The other years he's made the playoffs. He's 7, 12, and 1 when he's been injured and has started 10 games or less. So you've got 2 years of him being injured and you got 2 years of him being great. What's 2024 gonna be, right? That's why I've got the Ravens at 1, and I'll go with my number 2 team. I've got the Bengals. I've got the Bengals at 2. Again, if they almost made the playoffs at 9-8 last year, and that was with a backup quarterback. Yes, they have Jamar Chase. Yes, they had T. Higgins, and yes, they had oh my God, the other guy we were talking about, the wide receiver 3,
Jermaine Burton.
No, the one that just went to the Titans.
Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd. So they had offensive weapons, and luckily with their coach and with their defense and with their weapons there, whoever their backup quarterback was able to do something with that. So they actually got to 9 wins. If Joe Burrow stays healthy for 12, 13 games, they're going to get to double-digit wins with him there. It's just what's going to happen after that. He also needs to realize when to just step out of the game if he is with an injury or lingering injury, whatever. But this comment right here by Bill and a couple of interviews that I've seen with Joe Burrow, he's going to go into the season angry, and I mean really angry. The chip on his shoulder after last season is going to be massive. I could not agree more. He just wants to play this game, and he wants to go to the Super Bowl again. He's already had a taste. He knows how good him and his team are. He's going to go into 2024 like with a vengeance, I believe. And I think that may propel him into the playoffs next season. But I've got the Bengals at 2 for the AFC North in 2024.
All right. Let me walk you back on this. I'm going to attempt to talk you out of it. But I get that there's a lot to like about the Ravens. Arguably, they're the most balanced, complete roster in the NFL. And if Lamar Jackson has another MVP type season, they're going to be a nightmare every single week for teams to play. However, ...
comma.
I don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to stay healthy this year.
Ooh.
And not that I'm predicting an injury in a way where like I hope it happens so my prediction's right. It has nothing to do with that.
You heard it here first. Kyle is praying for injuries.
What if someone just clicked? No, the reason is because they say lightning doesn't strike twice. Whenever somebody tends to be healthy that normally has dealt with injuries, you get more concerned as the years go on, right? If you have if you play 4 seasons and you're hurt 2 of those 4, you have a 50% injury rate in those 4 seasons. And if you're healthy for the 5th and 6th season, all of a sudden it's like, well, are we due for one?
Look at Casey's comment. He just clicked in. He's like, yo, what the fuck?
No, not at all. So it's not just about that he's due for one. I hate to even say it like that. It's their offensive line, which is usually a strength. It has serious question marks this year. They lost the right side of the unit. Kevin Zeitler and Morgan Moses left the offensive line too. Baltimore replaced them with a 7th round pick and a 2024 2nd round pick. There's just no guarantee that these guys are going to come in and fill in and be a strength. So I'm worried about the offensive line for the Ravens, which ultimately has a lot to do with Lamar Jackson's health. And there's also questions in their defense. I told you, Ronald Darby is not a starting corner. He's a good veteran that you want on your roster, but they're asking him to come in and be the number 2 corner. Safety Geno Stan, no, they lost Ronald Darby and Geno Stan, but Ronald Darby was no cornerback 2 anyway. And then they lose Morgan Moses. They trade him to the Jets. They lose Jadeveon Clowney in free agency. On top of that, they lost their defensive coordinator to a head coaching job in Seattle. There's a lot of things that have changed within the team. This is the type of what happened last year was they loaded up. They went all in for a Super Bowl, and they had enough success where they lost a lot of pieces, including a defensive coordinator. And unfortunately, they didn't get the Super Bowl. So this reminds me of the Eagles. They made it to the Super Bowl. Everybody was like, the way they played in that Super Bowl against the Chiefs, there's no way that they're not coming back. But they lost their defensive coordinator. They lost pieces here and there. They lost CJ Gardner Johnson. They lost pieces, and they were just living off of the hype from the previous season. But last year, the Eagles didn't look like themselves, and it's hard to lose all these pieces on the offensive line, the defensive coordinator. You can't say that about the Bengals. The Bengals loaded up. They didn't lose anything. So I don't know. That's kind of my like pushback against the Ravens is that the Bengals have, I mean, unless you're predicting Joe Burrow to not stay healthy, it's hard to predict the Ravens to win this division with all of those missing pieces, especially the defensive coordinator.
Kyle is a Ravens hater, but if you didn't know, if you haven't tuned into this show, it is the first time you're seeing his analysis of the Ravens. The way he said it so eloquently, you would think he's just doing analysis. But what he sneakily did here, guys, is he became Kyle the Ravens hater, but was like, I'm just gonna put a suit and tie over it. I'm gonna dress it up. I'm gonna put some nice cologne on it. I'm gonna put an Audemars watch on it. And he eloquently stated his case. And you know what? Good shit. that was well said, Kyle. And you did like starting to convince me a little bit, because McDonald leaving to a head coaching job, huge for the defense, right? Losing who was it? Patrick Queen to the AFC North rival Steelers. Their linebacker was a huge loss as well. They did bring in Derrick Henry, but I am still of the belief that I don't think that Derrick Henry is going to be that much of an impact on the team. And that's why one of my non-negotiables for the Ravens was the wide receiving core. So you made a lot of great points, and as well as the offensive line, because I forget what division we did where they also had a huge shift in the offensive line. And one of the things that I heard somebody say was like, and I was thinking, oh, that's a really good point, is yes, you can put all these awesome offensive linemen or very above average offensive linemen on one offensive line, but they have to mesh. And it's not going to take a training camp. It's not going to take August for all these guys to mesh. It's going to take the first few games of the season, and then you'll start seeing them evolve into one unit. So again, just fucking good shit on that, because I'm already being like, ooh, man, the Bengals do have a good shot at this with the Ravens and those plus and minuses on the team. So eloquently said. Kyle's still a hater though. So with that being said,
this is gonna be tough, because I could say 3 and 4, but it's like this is how I know this is the best division in football, is because whoever you're predicting to be 3rd and 4th, it just feels wrong. I don't care if you're taking the Steelers to come in last, if you're taking the Steelers 3rd, if you're taking the Browns last, whatever it is, it doesn't feel right, because it feels like how can you have the best division and last place in the same sentence? But somebody has to finish last. It just doesn't seem like it would happen to any of these teams. So who's it going to be? Well, I'm going to tell you my 3rd team is going to be I got to go with the Cleveland Browns, dude.
Ooh.
The defense of the Cleveland Browns is an absolute unit. The last we saw from Deshaun Watson, in my opinion, he looked like he was getting back to his regular form. They acquired Jerry Jeudy. I think that he's going to, I'm not saying he's going to, turn out to his first round potential, but I could see him getting to Gabriel Davis type production, which is where he ranked in PFF last year. Gabe Davis, Jerry Jeudy. So yeah, they added a weapon. That's a fact. Whether you're mad that Jerry Jeudy was a bust or not, Jerry Jeudy is still a weapon on the offense. So I think that they're going to benefit from that, especially Amari Cooper. I think that their defensive line is the best in the league. Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Jordan Hicks. They have one of the best defensive units in all of football, and defense still wins championships. The concerns about Deshaun Watson, if he doesn't regain his Pro Bowl form, then so be it. But I'm not picking them to be in 1st. I'm picking them to be in 3rd. So they were 11-6 last season. I could see them finishing 10-7 this season, maybe one more loss. But if Deshaun Watson does come back and look like even something remotely close to what we saw in 2020, the Browns can easily win this division.
Yep, you heard it. Kyle wants to see all of the Cleveland Browns finish. So I also am going to go with the Browns in third place, which makes the Steelers last place for both of us in this division. And the Browns being in, what's that?
Schedule for me. Yeah, that's the kicker.
So schedule for you. Also, the reason I'm putting the Cleveland Browns right in third place over the Steelers, it has less to do with the Browns because I've already expressed my concerns about Deshaun Watson and what he has or hasn't done. In the few games that he played, there was some games where he was looking good. Maybe 2 out of the 4 or 5 starts that he had, they were really good starts. Regardless, it more so has to do with the Steelers' lack of a clear quarterback decision. And again, that is the one thing I mentioned as my non-negotiable is who are you going to go with at quarterback? If it is Russell Wilson, the veteran minimum, you're giving the veteran minimum. Again, this is somewhat of an experiment for the Steelers. How much of a hindrance is that going to be to your team who seems to be pretty much set for a playoff run if you go with a guy who's coming off one of probably the worst years of his career last season? Okay, so it has more to do with the Steelers just, I don't know, question marks at quarterback position for me, putting the Cleveland Browns third and the Steelers fourth than the Browns in general, because you made a good point. Their defensive units, again, is still one of the best. We talked about the red zone percentage, but the numbers can be skewed. How many times did these teams get into the red zone on the Browns last year if their yardage per game was one of the best in the league as well? So you're going to have those things that don't make sense. Deshaun Watson, for the most part, again, he's been injured. He hasn't had his two good seasons with the Browns at all. But that doesn't mean that after a full offseason, after rehabbing, that he could come back week 1 and just show us exactly that 2020 Deshaun Watson, if not the 2019 with the Houston Texans when he was leading them to playoff runs. So that I believe in Deshaun Watson doing that more than I believe in Russ somehow flipping a switch and becoming the he's only gotten 1 MVP vote type of Russell Wilson that he was in the middle of his career in Seattle, who also led them to a Super Bowl win and another Super Bowl after that. So I believe more in Deshaun Watson at this point than I do in the experiment that's going on with quarterbacks in this Pittsburgh. So that's why I'm going Cleveland 3 and Steelers 4. But like you said, this was a tough one for me no matter what, because the Steelers went to the playoffs and won 10 games and the back end of that quarterback and upgraded a quarterback somehow. They went to the playoffs on the back of Mason Rudolph, for fuck's sake. Let's remember that, guys. Let's all remember that shit. That's who they went to the playoffs with and still won 10 games. And the Bengals were the ones who were outside looking in to those playoffs last year. So it doesn't have to do much with the Browns. It's mostly on the Steelers and what their situation is at the most important position in sports, and that's quarterback.
Yeah, so you got the funny comment, by the way, Bill. I was right when you put that up, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you said, what's going on? I'm like, you haven't been paying attention. Kid Rock is always Kid Rocking at the RNC is like
bow with the bob, want the bob.
When I saw that comment, I wanted to go bow with the bob, the bang, drop the boogie, bow with the bob, the bob. Bow with the bow, the bang, diggy, Tennessee, the boogie, the odd drop. My name is. Dude, that song gets me so fucking hype. I remember a funny story. When I was a kid, my dad, I called him my Uncle Randy. He was really just my dad's friend. He wasn't even my uncle, but he lived with us. And we used to sneak into his room, and he had a Kid Rock CD, and we used to put it on. And I remember that song was track 1. And it was like I would sneak in there and put it on and just beat headbanging at like 5 years old, dude. Just with them up. That's why I'm like the way I am now.
Not to get too off track, but do you remember the Marshall Mathers LP? And how absolutely insane those like skits were, where one of them was like one of the guys that Slim Shady absolutely hated. And he had a whole skit where he was getting his dick sucked by 2 guys, and you hear the noises, and I'm listening to that at like 11 years old, 10 years old, and I'm just like, this is hilarious. I'm like, this is why I'm fucked up.
Yeah, dude, he there's a whole generation of people responsible for
Oh, 100%.
it's definitely our generation. Okay, so football, the Falcons and the Broncos is week 1, week 2, and then they play the Chargers, who I think is going to be sneaky good. The Colts are going to be, I think, an okay team. All right, but that I hope that the Steelers won some of these games because now it's going to get turned up. Cowboys, okay, then they got 3 more winnable games for the rest of their schedule. Raiders, Jets, Giants, Commanders. Okay, so November 10th,
Jesus.
the Steelers hopefully won as many games as they could by November 10th. They can't lose games to the Commanders. They can't lose games to the Broncos. They can't lose games to the Giants because after November 10th, Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals.
Oh my God. Oh my fucking
I mean,
God.
do it one more time. Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals.
Jesus H Christ. So the only good thing about this is they're at home against the Ravens. Then it's a short trip to Cleveland and Cincinnati. They go back home against the Browns. They got to go across town to Philly. Then they got to go down south to Baltimore. They're at home. So luckily there's not too much travel. And I know that's a big one for your schedule, strength of schedule. So luckily for them, it's not a lot of travel, but oh my God, what a final back end of that schedule. They are, Nick's saying they're drafting high next season.
Yeah. And that's why my what did we call it again? Ultimatum?
Strength is non-negotiable.
That's why my non-negotiable was that they finish with the best division record in their division because look at this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their final 8 games are in the division. So if they do win those winnable games by November 10th and they do finish say 5-1 in the division, they're going to probably be the number 1 seed or the number 1 team in their division. But that is a big if, and those are hard games, whether they're at home or not. It's going to be difficult for the Steelers. So that's why I have the Steelers coming in last. That's really the only reason. I haven't seen a schedule look like that ever. I mean,
if you could predict 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, those 8 games, the ones that Bill was talking about, 8 games against all those opponents. If you say they have to have the best record in the division, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. That's all 6 games there of the division. What are you giving their what's the record there for them at the end of those 8 games? After week 18, what's their record?
Week 18, like their final record of the season?
Yeah. Oh, no. Those 8 games. Sorry, those 8 games.
Those 8 games?
Weeks 11 through 18 there.
I'm gonna piss everyone off. 4-4.
Oh, sitting on the fence. I like it.
I think that all they got to do is split series, split them with the Browns. They can win one. Split with the Bengals, right? They can sneak one at home week 18 with the playoffs on the line. The Chiefs on Christmas, I think that's going to be a tough game for the Chiefs. It's in Pittsburgh. Christmas games are hard for the traveling team. The Chiefs were not some powerhouse last year. They just weren't. They lost a lot of games like this, and now we're just supposed to forget about all that because they won the Super Bowl. No, if the Chiefs can still win the Super Bowl and struggle mightily in the regular season like they did last year. So
absolutely,
I could see them sneaking one of those, and then they got to sneak one with the Ravens, and if I had to pick, it would be the first game on this stretch, and it's a home game against the Ravens at 12 o'clock. Those are always really tough games for the Ravens. They swept the Ravens last year. They can sneak one.
And if you are, pissed off at this prediction by Kyle, let both of us remind you, the Steelers had the best divisional record last year at 5-1. They had the best divisional record. Everybody else was 3 wins or less. So, and that is with arguably worse quarterback play. Arguably. We don't know where they're at. Arguably worse quarterback play. So just putting that out there. You know what I mean? So just putting that out there.
So I got Bengals, Ravens, Browns, Steelers. Rick has Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers. And that is our AFC North predictions for your ass. And now, boom! Now we are going too soon.
Too soon. Real quick though, before we get canceled, I just want to remind you guys, if you guys could please like this stream before you guys get out of here and kind of in the middle of the show, that'd be awesome for us. So hit that thumbs up on YouTube or on Twitch. Eventually we'll get back on X to live stream, but for now, on Twitch and on and on YouTube, please hit that like button. But Kyle, what do we got next?
All right, so next up, we're going to be doing our top 30 players or over 30. So top 30 players over 30 entering the 2024 season. I'm excited about this one because there are a lot of great players that are 30 years old and older. So if you're feeling 30 this year, which I'll be in a couple of weeks, feel good about 30. There's a lot of people that are in their prime at 30.
And that's right.
Yeah, we're going to be coming through and reminding you just how good some of the players are that are 30 years old. Though each player listed represents how old the players will be by September 5th when the season kicks off. Some of these players are 29 now, but by the time week 1 kicks off, they will be 30 years old by that date. And Rick, who is the best player in the NFL 30 years or older?
So this is a good question because I already have a couple that I'm thinking of. 2 of them wide receivers, and Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. But also over 30, we're talking about still multiple MVP winner Aaron Rodgers. And of course, what's the other quarterback? I mean, Super Bowl winning quarterback with the Rams, Matthew Stafford. I don't know who I want to go with being the top because Tyreek Hill has been extremely close to 2,000 yards receiving in like 2 seasons in a row. He's still an absolute monster at his position, but we say it on this podcast, and really everyone in the entire NFL thinks this. Quarterbacks are the most important positions. And when you got guys like Aaron Rodgers and even to an extent Matthew Stafford continuing to perform at an excellent level, a level in which you as a fan of that team feel confident that you have a chance in the playoffs. I mean, we got to remember the Rams, were in the playoffs last year after we thought when Matthew Stafford was injured, that's it, they're done. No, I think I got to go with quarterback here. And really, I got to go with multiple MVP winner, Super Bowl winner, Aaron Rodgers as the best player over 30. When he went to the Jets before last season, I had already crowned the Jets AFC East division champs. He got injured, unfortunately, as he was carrying out that flag right in the first 4 plays of the game. And yet still he's coming back from an Achilles, which he rapidly came back from last season when the Jets were still somewhat in it, somewhat not. He thought he was going to play again. Obviously that whole season happened. But again, he's recovering from that and coming into this season, and a lot of high expectations are on the Jets because he is returning this season. So I think for me, best player over 30 right now is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm going with Aaron Rodgers too, because like you said, if I go down the list and I'm kind of like, maybe this guy, why don't I just make it simple? Which
Yep.
one of these players, if you remove them from the team, basically wipes out any aspirations of winning a Super Bowl? And I can't really say that about a lot of the players. I can say that about Matthew Stafford, just like you. But I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers because, quite frankly, we got to see firsthand last year what that team looks like without Aaron Rodgers. If he can get back to playing something close to a Hall of Fame level, even at age 40, the Jets are going to be a playoff team, and they're probably going to make a run for the Super Bowl. The Jets are likely to play maybe at a slow offensive pace under Nathaniel Hackett. He's just not the greatest. But when you have a running back that is as good as, what is it? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name.
Breece
Hall.
Breece Hall, not Bryce Hall.
Breece Hall. I mean, arguably the best running back that Aaron Rodgers has had. He's played with good wide receivers before. They're gonna be good, but last time Rodgers played with a defense as good as this team, he won the Super Bowl in 2010. This is the type of defense that the Jets have. So Rodgers, it's hard to go any other way with this, especially when you consider that he takes good care of his body. So 40 years old, like we've seen quarterbacks play really good late in their career. This isn't just like a Tom Brady era thing. Like John Elway did it at 38. Like there's a lot of quarterbacks that play at a high level. And I think the injury, in a weird way, he didn't take any hits last season. All he's been doing is working out and rehabbing. So I think the body is going to be in maybe better shape than it has been for the last couple of years, even though he's 40. I don't expect some major change. If he hasn't played any football, he's only been, nursing an injury. I expect Rodgers to come back, and there's nothing he likes more than proving the naysayers wrong. So I expect that to motivate him, just like any competitive athlete finds an edge. I think that's going to be Rodgers. That's going to be his edge this season, is that there's going to be a lot of people that are expecting him or even hoping that he fails because they don't like the Jets or Aaron Rodgers. I think both of that's going to fuel him. And I'm with you. I got to go with Rodgers at number 1.
All right. My number 2, and I'm actually not going to go quarterback, even though I was talking up Stafford. I got to go with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill has been a game changer. He has won Super Bowls with the Chiefs, just became an electrifying player in Kansas City, and continues to be the number 1 option at 30 with the Dolphins. Again, I talked about how he's been close to 2,000 yards receiving, and we even talked about how much of a different looking offense it is for the Dolphins last season when Tyreek Hill is not on the field. Jalen Waddle is talented and he's a good wide receiver. It's just he is even a better wide receiver as the number 2 option because Tyreek Hill takes a lot of that pressure off of him, and he's able to get open. He's able to make these catches, able to get touchdowns. It's just Tyreek Hill is that type of a player, and there are very few times where, or instances really across the league where a player like Tyreek Hill becomes that much of a magnet for defenders. So my number 2 out of the top players 30 over 30 is going to be Tyreek Hill.
I love the pick. I'm going to go, though, with a quarterback here. I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford. There's something about, this is kind of a theme, there's something about fine wines getting better with age, and Matthew Stafford's another quarterback that is a little bit older. He had a fantastic season at 35 years old. Now he's 38, 36? No, he's 36.
36.
His last year, though, he had a great season when he was on the field. He had an 83.8 passing grade in the regular season that finished 7th in the league. While he had 32 big-time throws, that was the 5th most, and a 2% turnover-worthy play rate. That was 2nd, behind only Dak Prescott. So there's really just no reason to expect these quarterbacks, especially like you said, the rules to protect the quarterback. There's no way I'm predicting these major fall offs from one year to the next. Matthew Stafford's going to play at a high level. It seemed like last year he just got going at the end of the season, quite the opposite of a fall off. So Stafford's got one of the best big arms in the NFL, and even if the total arm talent is going down slightly, he's making up for it with his wisdom, his creativity, his craftiness, the kind of in a similar way that you saw Manning doing in 2013, 2014, and 2015. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford at number 2. You take him off the Rams, they're in huge trouble. You keep him on there, you could go to the NFC Championship game or a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Stafford's actually going to be my number 3. Again, we can't say enough about him, right? What he did in Detroit to start off his career, the physical and mental toughness that you've got to have starting your career off in when he was there, what was recently just a terrible team to be on was the Lions. He had Megatron, luckily, right? He had his number 1 wide receiver for like 8-9 years or so. So he started off his career really, really great in terms of being able to count on a guy as a wide receiver. And then from there, I mean, he just continued to build his case as to why he was one of the top quarterbacks in the league. CJ Stroud has actually named him as one of his like favorite quarterbacks, someone that I like, he not necessarily looks up to or anything, but is just like, that is like a good representation of a quarterback. So in a way, he's your like favorite quarterback, Kyle.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, again, and the quarterback position, crucial to the flow of a team and to the success of a team. It's almost directly related to the success of a team. So yeah, Stafford at number 3 for me.
And number 4, I'm going with Dak Prescott. And
no, number 3.
All right,
number 3.
Number 3. Number 3, I'm going with Dak Prescott. Sorry, you said 3, and then I thought I was saying 4. No. Yeah. At number 3, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, in that order. Honestly, It's a shame that Prescott's final game of the season was that loss against Green Bay, because up until that point, he was having a pretty special season. Look at these numbers. He had an 89.8 passing grade in the regular season. That ranked second. His 73.5 passing grade under pressure was number 1. That's a key stat. Your passing grade under pressure. That actually says a lot about a quarterback, especially their IQ, knowing where to go safely with the football under duress. His 37 big-time throws was the most in the NFL, and his 2% turnover-worthy plays was the lowest among quarterbacks with at least 400 dropbacks. I thought Prescott could have been an MVP. He was definitely in the running. All of that went away with the poor showing at the end of the year, but I'm not going to just throw all of that away. Dak Prescott is still somebody that gives the Cowboys those false hopes of a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. During the season, we actually talked about that. At one point, while the Cowboys were riding high with Dak at quarterback and playing the way he was, Kyle was like, he's the MVP. He is the MVP of the league right now. And I had zero argument to that, because the way he was playing, the way he was beating teams, the stats he was putting up they were just ridiculous, like game numbers, like as if you were playing Madden on easy for him. So I respect the pick. Definitely like the pick. It's just, God, it's when it gets to the playoffs, it's just like the controller's unplugged for Dak Prescott at that point. He's just like, sack, interception, you know? And I think correct me if I'm wrong, but he was the only one that had more touchdowns at the end of the season than Jordan Love, right?
Yeah,
I think right.
I think you're right. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think you're right.
Or they were tied at the same number of touchdowns, something like that. Either way, like Jordan Love still had a stellar back end of the season.
I know they had the most 40-point games. The Cowboys did in any team.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. See? So there you go. All right. My number 4. And I'm just going on, I think I got to go on like what past performances and what he's meant to his quarterbacks. I'm going to go with Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams at number 4. So I've got 2 quarterbacks and then 2 wide receivers top 4. But I'm going Davante Adams, man. I think what happened when he left Green Bay sucked because he was still at the very top of his game, and then you paired him up with Aaron Rodgers, and that just could have been more hell for me as a Bears fan. So don't get me wrong, I'm glad he left Green Bay and then soon followed by Aaron Rodgers. But he's an absolute monster as a wide receiver. He's been a top wide receiver pretty much his entire career. He was one of the bright spots on a Raiders team that completely underperformed. And yes, sure, they were never going to overperform, or they weren't supposed to really meet any expectations last season. But he was one of the few bright spots and continues to be one of the few bright spots on this Raiders team that is just it's bad. It's bad. Let's be honest, right? So he just continues to be that kind of guy. And if we look at his stats from last season, all 17 games, 103 receptions, 1,100 yards, a little over 1,100 yards, had 8 touchdowns. But the season prior, while he was in with the Raiders, he had 14 touchdowns, 1,500 yards. Like, he continues to be just a player that is consistent. Yes, he's got some sort of like issues with how the team's being run, especially when Josh McDaniels was there. But if you were a wide receiver as talented as he is, wouldn't you be like, yo, what the fuck is going on with this team? Right. So obviously he's had some issues, like the same thing when we talk about like Stephon Diggs or whatever, but there's no denying his talent whatsoever. And I've got Davante Adams at number 4. He's that fucking good.
I want to take you back for my number 4 to December 13th, 2023, when the Miami Dolphins found themselves in an uncomfortable situation on Monday Night Football in a game against the Tennessee Titans, who were able to erase a 14-point lead over the final 3 minutes for a huge comeback win in Will Levis's first game with Mike Vrabel as the coach. And this game I bring up because this was a game that the Dolphins hit the field without Tyreek Hill. And up to this point, the whole theme of the season was for the Dolphins, it was pick on someone your own size. Every time they played a good team, they lost. You might have forgot that. They kept beating these smaller teams, but up until this point, and then they lost to the Titans, and it was kind of like, oh, okay. The most troubling part of all of this is how the Dolphins offense looked when Tyreek Hill wasn't in the game. And he suffered an ankle injury in the first quarter of that game, and he stood on the sideline until the third quarter, and he only played 47% of the snaps. That was his second lowest in the season. So the Dolphins, they couldn't even get into the red zone without Tyreek Hill on the field.
Yep.
This offense looks absolutely stagnant when Tyreek Hill's not in the game. The team can't operate with the same level of efficiency. It doesn't mean that Mike McDaniel's not a good play caller. It just means that Tyreek Hill's importance to the offense in the ability that he gives Tua to spread the ball to other weapons, because the defense is focusing so heavily on Tyreek Hill. It's hard to find another player that has that kind of an impact. And you really don't find non-quarterbacks this valuable everywhere you look. So that's why the first non-quarterback on my list is going to go to Tyreek Hill, because he is really the biggest hope that the Dolphins have. Even when the Dolphins put up 4,500 passing yards in a season, all the talk is about Tyreek Hill breaking the single season receiving record. It's not about Tua so good. There's a reason Tua hasn't been paid yet, and Tyreek Hill just asked for a pay raise. It's because Tyreek Hill is the most important piece on this offense, and that's how people around the team and people that are watching from afar view Tyreek Hill on the Dolphins.
Love it. Love it. Number 5 here. 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, I got to count. I'm going with I'm going with Trent Williams. You know, we got to show.
Damn, we have the same 5.
Oh, do we? We got to show the offensive line some love here. And Trent Williams has been one of the most consistent players in the NFL in the I don't know, 15 or so years that he's been in the league.
Wait, real quick, can we put some respect on his name? Because he's not 30, he's 36. This
Yeah.
is like a non-quarterback
Yeah.
coming on our list that's closer to 40 than 30. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. He turned 30 in 2018. We gotta let's take a second. He turned 30 in 2018. Ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. But his position, the left tackle position, in recent years has been pretty much hyped up. Now, I don't want to say hyped up, but it's been proven that it is one of the top positions in the league. Now, we got to remember, most of these quarterbacks in the league are right-handed. They're going to be throwing with their right hands, meaning left tackles are going to be their blind side guys. So why have they been that important? You got edge rushers coming off those sides there. So you have to have a left tackle that you can trust absolutely with your franchise quarterback. So very important position. And at 36, he's still producing at a very high level, probably the number one tackle for a Super Bowl hopeful team. They've been in the NFC Championship. They were in the Super Bowl last year. Next stop for them is the Super Bowl. So for Trent Williams to continue to do this, make way for Christian McCaffrey, protect Brock Purdy's blind side, give him enough time to get it to Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, all these guys, and George Kittle as well, so there's really no argument. He's number 5 for me. He's that damn good.
Yeah. And if you've been watching games when he's not in the game, it's amazing. I remember last year he sat out 3 games and the 49ers went on a 3-game slide. And it was like, is Trent Williams the most important player on the 49ers?
We talked about that.
Yeah. Because when he is not in the game, Brock Purdy doesn't have a clean pocket when they don't run the balls effectively. He's just such an important player. And this isn't just like, we got to give love to the offensive line, but we're just doing it to do it. I mean this. Like, Trent Williams is that guy. He's the best offensive lineman in the NFL. I don't even think it's very close, to be honest. Like, Trent Williams is so important to the 49ers and their offense. His accomplishments, the accolades, it's all there. And all he has to do is sit out a couple games for everyone to realize why he's ranked so high.
I can't believe I forgot that too, because we did make it a point to mention that during the 49ers slide there. I can't remember when it happened though. Do you remember when it happened? Was it after that Cowboys win?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was like week 5 through 8, somewhere around there, I think.
Because it was after the week that they had like destroyed the Cowboys, wasn't it?
I think that sounds about right. That's about week 5, I think. So
and that was like a Monday night, Sunday night game, something like that.
They were undefeated until he got hurt.
So yeah, that completely just left my mind.
And he survived cancer diagnosis too.
What? No way.
In since 2018, he survived a cancer diagnosis. He's made first team All Pro 3 times. He's been in the Super Bowl, and he's had his 11th Pro Bowl nod. One short of setting an NFL record among tackles. Wow. He's basically reached an entire career's worth of accomplishments after hitting 30. So think about that.
Damn. And here I am struggling to just get up in the mornings at 33. Jesus Christ. We got Trent Williams over here just killing it. The cancer thing, I had no idea. Good for him. Like, honestly, good for him. And I'm sure that's you got to think, like, that's one of the driving reasons behind these guys. Like, not only are they hyper competitive football players, but something like that, that's got to be like one of your like main motivators right there.
Yeah.
All right. So number 6 for me is going to be Chris Jones, defensive tackle or defensive end or something, whatever his position is. Defensive tackle. There we go. For the Kansas City Chiefs, arguably the number 1 interior defensive lineman in the NFL, if we're being real here, right? He creates chaos. He was a talking point prior to last season when the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, mainly relying on their defense, because as you mentioned earlier, the Chiefs offense was very, very like, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? They were very just up and down, a roller coaster of a ride for that offense last season for the Chiefs. So inconsistent as well. Thank you. And then with the news prior to that season, before we knew what the offense was going to look like, Chris Jones, his name kept coming up. Are they going to sign him? Are they going to franchise tag him? Are they going to, give him a contract extension? Are they going to give him multiple years? Luckily, they settled on something. He came into this season, and he, as well as all the other players on the defense, were one of the biggest reasons why the Chiefs went on the run that they did in the playoffs, into the Super Bowl, into lifting the Lombardi yet again last February. This past February. So that's why I got him at number 6. He's one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL, and he just hit 30. So it doesn't mean that it's over yet. I don't think I still think he's got plenty of productive years left in him. So Chris Jones is number 6 for me.
Heads or tails?
Tails. Never fails.
Heads.
That's a bottle cap. I want you guys. He flipped a fucking bottle cap. Oh my god.
You said heads, and the call was heads.
Let's go.
I'm gonna go with Travis Kelce. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And I'll just tell you, I'll do 6 and 7, because 7 is going to be George Kittle. That's the heads and tails. It's difficult because Kittle was the NFL's highest graded tight end last year with an 87.7 PFF grade, but Kelce finished second at 82.6. Kittle's run blocking grade was much better than Kelce's, though. And this is when we talk about an all-around tight end. Kittle is all around. He can chip the best edge rushers and then go out, make the catch, and then run for 40 yards. Like, there's just nothing that Kittle can't do. Run blocking grade, Kelce had an 46.9 run blocking grade. Kittle had an 81.1 run blocking, almost doubled it. Not even close. Their overall grades over the past 3 years are identical with a 91.6. Kelce is going to get the nod for me here, not just because you hit heads, but because if you remove Kittle from the 49ers, yes, it's a huge problem, but the 49ers, I think, can still overcome with Debo and Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey. If you take Kelce off the Chiefs, I don't even know what they would look like, to be honest. Like, Kelce was the whole offense last season, and the question all year was, is it enough, though? And it was. They ended up winning the Super Bowl. I mean, in the end, there's little doubt who the best 2 tight ends are in the past, 3 to 5 years. It's Kittle and Kelce. But Kelce's receiving ability is invaluable to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs' overall success. So we're talking about players that are the most important to their team right here. I think Travis Kelce might be too low here at 5, but this is as high as I could put a Chief. So I'm going to go with Travis Kelce. There's just no way that the Chiefs can have the type of success that they do without this guy, who's going to go down maybe as the greatest tight end of all time when it's all said and done, if he's not already there.
I love that, because as much as we try to be objective about the NFL, we still hate our division rivals, and we show it, and we're gonna show it, and that's what makes the show awesome. So I love that. It's like, this is the highest I could put a Chief. I love it. All right, so for me, number 7, I think I'm gonna go. I know I'm gonna go with who you had. I think top 3 or top 4 was Dak, right? Do you have Dak like 4th, something like that? So I'm going to go with Dak Prescott. We talked about how during the season he was probably one of the best quarterbacks, ended with the most touchdowns in the NFL for a quarterback last season. Obviously slipped again in the playoffs. I wouldn't say it was all on him, right? But he's the quarterback. he's the one that's going to get a brunt of this "you failed" type of conversation. The defense has a lot to do with that loss. Let's just, keep it there, Micah Parsons. So make sure, to give the defense their share of the blame there. But Dak Prescott, again, MVP-like season last season. He continues to be a top 10 quarterback, but the way he was playing last season, I mean, you could put him in top 5, top 3 category, really, the way he was playing. We talked about it. And yet he's still playing in the final year of his contract. That does not take into account his playoff record and how everything seems to not make sense in his brain during the playoffs. So the player alone, Dak Prescott over 30, top 10 easily. And that's why I've got him at number 7 and you had him at number 4. The quarterback is very, very is one of the most important positions, the most important positions in sports. We're going to continue to say that because it's true. And especially with the amount of scrutiny that comes as a Dallas Cowboys quarterback, he's been able to still go out there. And since 2016, he is only 3rd in wins behind Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. So, wow. What more do you want? Probably a Super Bowl ring. Sure, I get that. But if he plays out this last season with the Cowboys and then becomes a free agent, there will be plenty of teams that will want Dak Prescott. So,
and do you want to do the next one too? Because I did Kittle and Kelsey.
Oh, you're right.
But yeah, but you did. I agree with you having them there. What was that?
You did 6 and 7. I do want to do the next one. So number 8, I forgot about that, is Travis Kelce for me. Similar to what you said. You take Travis Kelce off this team, and the Chiefs are right now like, okay, it's Patrick Mahomes and everybody else. That's the way it's going to look. It's Patrick Mahomes on the offense and Chris Jones on the defense. And let's see what happens, right? We talked about earlier while doing the AFC West breakdown about, oh my God, Rashee Rice and the trouble that he's gotten into, the situations that he's gotten himself into during this offseason. He's going to get suspended for the most part, is what I keep reading on NFL.com, ESPN, blah, blah, blah. So number 1 receiver, pretty much out the door for a few games. Who else do you have left? You got Travis Kelce. That is your safety blanket if you're Patrick Mahomes. Yes, last season, not great statistically for Kelce, but it was a down year. He's 30-something years old. Where is it? 30 motherfucking goddamn 34 years old. He's going to have a down season. He's won 3 Super Bowls already, and he's been awesome in all of them. It's in those situations. There you go. Thanks, Casey. In those situations where it really does count. But again, you take Kelce out, like you said, Kyle, and there's really no other offensive weapons. He is definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. He's among the best tight ends year in, year out. We talked about when we were talking about Gesicki earlier, like he's not going to make the money Kittle's making, but Kelce's making, but because Kelce has been so consistent over his entire career, especially when you got Patrick Mahomes throwing you the ball. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that he should be top 10 of the 30 over 30 guys here.
And number 8, I got to go with Laramie Tunsil, Houston Texans. Mm-hmm. We're talking about impact players, and just look at this. They got the Colts week 1 with Buckner. They got the Bears week 2 with
Sweat.
Mm-hmm. Then they got the Jags with Armstead and Josh Allen and the other guy that they drafted number 1 overall 2 years ago. I can't remember his name right now. Then you got the Bills with Von Miller, the Packers with Lucas Van Ness, the Colts again, the Jets with their defense, the Lions with their defense, the Cowboys with what's his name? Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
I mean, you just look at this list and the Chiefs with a guy that's probably going to come up on my list, but there's a lot of really, really good defensive lines that the Texans are going to be playing next year. And Tunsil remains one of the best pass blocking offensive tackles in the NFL. He had an 84.9 pass blocking grade. that ranked 4th last year. He earned a 91.6 pass blocking grade since joining the Texans in 2019, which is second among 67 qualifying offensive tackles in that span. The Texans knew exactly what they were doing when they extended him right before the draft kicked off. Laramie Tunsil is a really, really important piece to CJ Stroud's success that he had as a rookie. And he's not quite as great as Trent Williams or maybe some other guys in the running game, but his ability to keep Stroud in a clean pocket makes up for the little deficiencies he has. And I think what isn't being talked about is the PFF grade. That's all great, but the type of leader that he is, we're talking about a guy that has ownership stake in this team, somebody that is a true leader. He just turned 30, but he's a captain of this team for a reason. Laramie Tunsil is one of the most important pieces to the Houston Texans, who are one of the most talented rosters in the NFL.
And Bill's got a comment here. I got a guy in mind that he better make the list or he's going to be mad. And I think I know who you're talking about, Bill.
Daniel Jones
at number 9 for me.
Same here. No way. Are you serious?
Oh, sorry, Bill. I meant Saquon Barkley. Oh, wait, he's an Eagle now. Number 9 for me.
Wrong.
Bill's going to like this one. I think I know who he's talking about. Number 9 for me. Mike Evans. Mike Evans at number 9. Bill, that's not who Bill wants. But Mike Evans for me is going to be number 9. 10 years in a row. Ever since he came into this league, he has had over 1,000 yards. The most receptions he ever had was in his year 3 at 96. He's had double-digit receiving touchdown seasons in 5 out of his 10. His consistency is ridiculous, and really until last season, at least for me, which is kind of like, a bad thing on me, almost went unnoticed, really. Like his consistent 1,000-yard, always there, getting a great amount of touchdowns per season. The lowest he's ever had is 3, but that was his second year in the league. It almost goes unnoticed. And what he was able to do in that time with the Bucs before Brady, when there was like a good amount of gap between his rookie season and Brady. Michael Strahan's teeth specifically, that big of a gap where he had no good quarterback throwing to him. Like, no, he had Jameis Winston throwing to him, for Christ's sake, right? So there was times where it was like, how has this guy done this? And then he had Tom Brady, won a Super Bowl, luckily, because he does deserve that. I think with his career, he's definitely a guy who deserved that Super Bowl ring. And then while he struggled a bit, or the offense last year seemed a little bit like not in tune when Baker Mayfield started, you could see that as the season wore on, it got a little bit better. And he was 5th most receiving yards at 782 and 2nd most touchdowns with 8 in the league in weeks 9 through 18. So that just goes to show that what we've been saying about consistency through playing together, when you've got certain units on the team that are, a mixed bag of people, that's when you start seeing the fruits of the labor there. And like those later weeks, or, it takes a bit to get that meshing of the minds. So I've got Mike Evans at number 9 for me.
At number 9, I got Jalen Mills, defensive back from the Giants. He's been in the league 9 years, a 7th round draft pick.
Oh God. Oh, Kyle, who is it? Who is it really? Who is it? Stop pandering to Bill. Stop pandering to Bill.
Okay. This is a tough one, but I'm going to go with Lane Johnson.
Okay.
And look, I know that I saw a comment. Bill said, "Surprised Mike Evans isn't higher." This is ridiculously difficult. And the way I'm doing is just like the most important position in sports. It's your quarterback. The second most position is the insurance, right? If you watch The Blind Side, the opening scene explains how Lawrence Taylor made offensive tackle the most important position in football.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with Lane Johnson. Over the course of 4 consecutive seasons, the Eagles have drafted Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, and Johnson. These core 4 linemen came to define Eagles football through multiple coaching regimes. But Lane Johnson has been a consistent piece that is year in and year out just amazing. Excuse me, just amazing. He remains one of the best right tackles in the league. He has an 80.1 overall grade last year that was tied for his second lowest mark since 2015. That's why I had Laramie Tunsil ahead of him, but still, he was the only right tackle to rank among the top 15 in both pass blocking and run blocking. So the versatility from Lane Johnson really makes up for it, where other guys that are really high in running or really high in passing, Lane Johnson is just a plug and play. It doesn't matter where you're running it, passing it. He can hold his own among anybody. So Lane Johnson makes my list, and he's definitely a top 5 offensive tackle in the league, period, not just 30 or over.
100%. So my number 10, because we are only going to do the top 10 at least in our list, and then we'll do some honorable mentions, or we'll just tell you guys what else rounds out the list here at the end. I'm having a tough time.
Yeah,
because I've got a guy who I've got a soft spot for, but I've got the most important position in sports as well listed on here.
You got a hard spot for him, not a soft spot.
Oh, it's so hard right now. I'm going to give you guys the guy I've got a soft spot for, and it's going to be Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack.
Oh my
another
God.
defensive player. See, Kyle knows I've got a hard on for him. I mean, a soft spot for him. 17 sack season last year, 80 pressures, which was the 8th most. His best output as a edge or outside linebacker, whatever you want to call him, since his first year on the Bears in 2018. He was that was his first team All-Pro campaign when he was with the Bears. He did all this without Joey Bosa basically half the season. He also stuffed 19 runs, led all edge rushers in that category. So he's not just a guy getting sacks. He's not just a guy getting pressures. He can actually stuff the run as well. So he's not totally a one-dimensional type of edge rusher either. This is why, and that's why I got a soft spot for him, because he used to be on the Bears, and I've got his jersey. So sue me. But number 10, so I just wanted to put that out there. But number 10 for me, Kirk Cousins. I am a huge shit talker of Kirk Cousins.
You like that?
You like that? And that's what Kirk Cousins, that's what Kirk Cousins I think is going to do next season. He's going to revive the you like that when he takes the Falcons into the playoffs and possibly into a division win. Oh, I think I already called it. Yeah, the Falcons are going to win the division. So
you did.
I think he's going to revive that. And look, this again, Kirk Cousins is a guy who's coming off another injury, another huge injury, another Achilles, just like Aaron Rodgers. And he's a little bit on the older side, not necessarily 40 years old, but he's still a little bit on the older side. But he plays the most important position in sports, and that's quarterback. So we got to give him his flowers for that. We know what type of impact he can be on a team. He's shown it with the Vikings. He can get the ball to your number 1 wide receiver, just like he did with Jefferson, just like he did with Stephon Diggs. He can do all the things you want him to do. It's just similar to Dak Prescott. When it comes to the playoffs, or when it comes to even getting close to the playoffs, there's just something there that does not click with Kirk Cousins. Great guy. If you saw the Netflix quarterback series, you know he's a fucking awesome guy. He's a family man. He shops at Kohl's. So that's cool. He's saving money, looking good,
nice.
Looking fly.
Like, honestly, I'm not just saying this.
Yeah.
Kohl's is really good. The problem is the stuff he buys at Kohl's. That's the issue. Kohl's has good things to buy. He just purchases the most lame stuff that Coles has.
He's got blinders on. He's got blinders on when
well,
it
he
comes
said
to the
his
night
wife
shift.
purchases it,
There
so
you go.
obviously she's no
There you go.
fashion queen. But
she's just like, I want my man to look as shitty as possible.
yeah,
So nobody else wants him. So that's why
it didn't
why
work.
I got. Yeah, and he's got the grill. He's got the chains now too. So that for me, that's the reason I got Kirk Cousins at 10. Plays the most important position in sports, and stats wise is one of the better quarterbacks in the league too. It's just when it comes to the playoffs, he does suffer from, the Dak Prescott issue of just like controller unplugged.
My number 10, I'm with you. I got a soft spot, and then I got another player.
All right.
I'm gonna go with Von Miller.
Boo!
Von Miller didn't even make the top 30 list, and I just want to remind everybody that he was such an important piece of the Rams Super Bowl run that just happened in 2021. It hasn't been that long. Last year, he didn't play any football. People talk about him not having a sack. He was barely on the field because the year before he had a big injury. So this is his year back where he's actually going to be himself. He's 35 years old, but I still think that he's going to be playing in a different light. He's going to regain his swagger. His skill set is going to be on display. I think he's going to get sacks. I think he's going to put his name back in the conversation. And think about this. If Buffalo does finally go to the Super Bowl and win one, and Von Miller is the best edge rusher on that defense, this is going to age extremely well. I know that his prime is past, but I still think Miller's capable of being the best pass rusher on Buffalo's defense. And Von Miller, I've seen him up close for so long to know the amount of money that he puts into his body. He reminds me a lot of LeBron James in that way. And LeBron James, at his age right now, he was still one of the best players in the NBA last year. I think Von Miller can have that type of longevity in his career. He's dealt with some injuries in the past, but I expect him to be healthy this year and to remind everybody why he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Love it.
But my real number 10, outside of Von Miller, because that was my soft spot, that you had one too. I'm going to go with Stefon Diggs here.
I like that. Yep.
No player has had more catches since 2010 than Diggs, 445. He's recorded 100+ receptions and 8 or more touchdowns in 4 straight seasons, which is tied for the second longest streak. In NFL history, behind only Antonio Brown's 6 and tied with Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison. So it probably brings up the question that why wasn't Diggs higher on this list? And this is when you could get caught in being a prisoner of the moment. But also look at Nico Collins, look at Tank Dell, look at the other options that there are at the wide receiver position. And I think it's reasonable to expect Stefon Diggs to have lower production. There's just too many options to go with the football. I don't think that his time ending in Buffalo was an indication that Stefon Diggs has fallen off or anything like that. He's 30 years old. He's not 33. He's not 32. He's not 35. He just turned 30. I still think he has really good football left in him. If he can go out there and be a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL and emerge as the number 1 receiver for the Texans, then guess what? He should have been higher on this list.
Yeah. I agree. I like the Stefon Diggs. He was actually going to be one of my honorable mentions, as well as Amari Cooper too. Amari Cooper, good honorable mention here. And soft spot again, Keenan Allen, for me. And Cooper Kupp. We got to remember Cooper Kupp, right? Like he was one of mine. Injured. Yeah, and he's been injured. But he's 31, and we got to remember he was the guy that when they won their Super Bowl, he was the one having breakfast with Matthew Stafford, every single morning, in training camp in the offseason, and then just absolutely tore it up that year, going into that Super Bowl run for the Rams. So those are going to be my honorable mentions.
I'm going to have Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins in my honorable mentions, along with Chris Jones from the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are going to be my three. You mentioned Chris Jones. I mean, there's really nothing more to say. He's a beast, and he's probably the biggest reason they won the Super Bowl last year outside of Mahomes. And then Devontae Adams, really, really great. Unfortunately, he's stuck in a bad franchise that doesn't have winning ways, and they don't have Aaron Rodgers. So he's kind of falling out of the top 10. I still think that he's got one of the best releases in the NFL, if not the best release in the NFL. He's an absolute nightmare. He's really good, and his prime is being wasted right now, but that's why he's kind of coming down the list. And then, of course, DeAndre Hopkins, we just talked about it. Like, he's still that dude, best hands in the NFL. Another situation like Adams where he's just not getting the ball thrown to him by Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. And that's kind of what's pushing him down the list. And it's a shame, because if it was one of those top quarterbacks in the league, these guys probably would have been the first names out of our mouth, like Tyreek Hill was.
Yeah. And then some other names that are listed on here. Casey said Rick's about to hit 30. I wish I was about to hit 30, Casey. I'm well past 30. Bill, yes, we're only doing the top 30, but on CBS NFL, they do have their top 30. And a couple of these names: DJ Reader, defensive tackle from the Lions; Zach Martin from the Cowboys at guard; Levante David, linebacker for the Bucks; Matt Milano, linebacker for the Bills. So these are the kind of the bottom, like 25 through 30 here. But
your boy,
another one,
Keenan Allen,
our boy Keenan Allen, my boy Keenan Allen; Joe Thuney, offensive guard for the Chiefs, still
Derrick
very,
Henry.
very good. Derrick Henry's on there. Ever heard of King Henry? But yeah, so we were only doing the top 10. But yeah, good list. I like that. But go check out the list on CBS. They've got some really, really good names on there. And Kyle, is it time for the motherfucking
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chives with Kyle. If you've made it this far, give yourself a round of applause. An episode that's running a little bit later. You can tell how excited we are that the NFL is about to kick off.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be going through some things really quick. The Jaguars unveiled a 90s themed jersey, and it actually looks dope. And it's actually proof that the 90s are coming back. That style is absolutely coming back. I remember this. This was the childhood Jaguars that I grew up watching. Maurice Jones-Drew and David Garrard, Byron Leftwich. They go check it out on NFL.com. It's the first story when you go to NFL.com. The other thing I was going to go over really quick, Quinn Martinez, one of my favorite offensive linemen in the NFL, just some guy that was drafted in the 3rd round out of Wisconsin Whitewater College, didn't get a lot of big offers, didn't even have any college offers until he was a senior, just kept trucking along and then got his chance in the NFL. And he is one of the most fun offensive linemen to watch. He is 15 yards past the line of scrimmage, still blocking people. He's like that scene in The Blind Side where they throw the flag for excessive blocking. And they're like, what
are you going to throw the flag on?
He is an absolute monster. I think Javonte Williams won angry runs. He won 2 times in one season. And in both of those cases, Quinn Martinez was just pushing Javonte from behind, like 10, 15 yards. This guy just has everything you want to see. The Broncos reward in making him the 3rd highest paid guard in the NFL. So congratulations to Quinn Martinez. It's just proof that it doesn't matter where you come from. If you work really hard, like you can achieve anything.
Absolutely.
Derek Carr reveals that he considered signing with the Jets in 2023, but he said it just wasn't the right time for him. Terrell Owens did reach out to Tom Brady about joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers
This is
and Tom
ridiculous.
Brady left him unread, right?
I want to. What? Like, T.O., talk to your agent. Talk to your agent to talk to the team, to talk to the GM and the owner. What are you just gonna fucking message Tom Brady and be like, "Oh, I'm in. I am in." You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about, dude?
I just want to say though, and in any case, I know this is all beyond fixable, but if this guy ever called me and I was a quarterback in the NFL and said, "I still want to play football," the answer,
Kyle's
yes. The answer
Kyle,
is a very, very exclamation mark, yes.
Kyle's Google search
Don't
history is
worry
gonna
about
be.
that.
I'm gonna release that shit.
Clear,
T.O. shirtless. T.O.
clear,
muscles.
clear, clear. Oh crap! I overcleared. I lost to you guys. The first team to report to camp fully is the Houston Texans. Deshaun Watson reveals that he's been throwing daily, including with Amari Cooper. Good news for the Browns fans wondering about Deshaun Watson and his shoulder injury. Jim Harbaugh era begins with optimism. And this is the last one I want to do. Jordan Love plans to help Packers running back Josh Jacobs avoid a TD-less NFL record. And a lot of people don't know this because I didn't know this. The veteran running back, Josh Jacobs, has caught 197 passes in his 5-year NFL career. But guess what, guys? He scored 0 receiving touchdowns. 0, not 1. So if he snags 5 more passes without hitting pay dirt, Jacobs would break former running back Gerald Riggs' record of 201 catches without a receiving touchdown. A 3-time Pro Bowler, Riggs played 7 seasons with the Falcons, and he won a Super Bowl in his final season. But Jacobs and Riggs, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's cool.
Yeah, but Jacob and Riggs are the only 2 players in NFL history with more than 150 career catches without a touchdown. So bring this up to Jordan Love during a Bleacher Report interview, and he goes, "No, that's not going to happen. I saw that the other day. I'm surprised he doesn't have any touchdowns yet." Let's see, 197 career receptions, 0 receiving touchdowns. I sent that to him, and I said, "Bro, we're going to get you a touchdown for sure."
Let's go.
First pass to him might be a touchdown. Who knows? 5 receptions away from it. We'll see if he gets a touchdown in there.
I was going to say, opening game for the Packers, they're inside the 5 on their first, like maybe one of their first scoring possessions. I think they go Josh Jacobs. I really do think they go Josh Jacobs.
I think the defensive coordinator knows that too. So
they're like, get his ass.
But, I do like that Jordan Love seems like he is really kind of coming into his own personality. Like, this is something last year where he would have been like, I can't control what I can't control. I'm just going to go out there and do what I can. And now, he's like, bro, we're going to get you a touchdown.
Yeah.
And you just kind of see that identity that he's kind of coming into as the Packers quarterback. But the other thing is I didn't know Josh Jacobs hasn't had a receiving touchdown, and I definitely didn't know that he was 5 receptions away from breaking the all-time record. So just something to keep in mind as we get close to week 1, because Josh Jacobs is going to be the workhorse of the offense. So I would expect if it doesn't happen week 1 or week 2, he breaks the record. He's got to score week 1 or week 2 because he's going to have 5 receptions by that point.
Oh, 100%. That's why I'm like, I think game 1, if Jordan Love really wants to do that, and you said the defensive coordinator on the other team definitely knows that, I think they're going to do that. Remember last season, week 18, the running back for the Saints,
Alvin Kamara.
No, the other guy that they brought in from Detroit.
Oh, Jamal Williams.
So last season, week 18, he had 0 touchdowns.
And they
no
were
touchdowns for the entire season. They were, because the season prior in 2022, he led all running backs in touchdowns.
Yeah, he led the NFL.
Yeah, he led the NFL. And so when week 18 came in and it was Jameis Winston under center, and they were already beating the brakes off the Falcons, they were in the red zone, and they handed it off to Jamal Williams to get into the end zone for the first time that season. And then like a brawl broke, not a brawl.
It was
there was some pushing and shoving. Exactly. So they were running up the score into the Falcons. They were like, what the fuck, asshole, right? And then the coach, whatever, was like, no, man, we didn't plan that. But Jameis Winston had to answer that. I was like, no, we as a team decided we wanted to get a touchdown. I think this is going to be something similar.
Your fucking defensive players to play defense and not worry about what we're doing.
There you go. There you go. And that rivalry gets heated. Saints-Falcons gets heated. So, but that was really cool. And I think that, like you said, the personality is coming out from Jordan Love. And as a team, I think they'll decide that on the field if they want to do that.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with it. And I actually think it's a good team building exercise and it boosts morale. But I remember the same thing happened with Christian McCaffrey, I believe. And I forgot what record he was about to break, but it was like first and goal, they gave it to McCaffrey. Second and goal, they gave it to McCaffrey. Third and goal, gave it to McCaffrey, and he didn't score. And the defense definitely knew what they were trying to do. And I would have been like, if I was Jordan Love, I would have been like, hey, why don't we not blast this article out there? You know, like
yeah, right.
Down low. Because honestly, if I'm a defensive coordinator game planning week 1, if I'm the Eagles defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, I'm like, okay, our red zone defense, we're going to focus on Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
There's probably a good chance they're going to be trying to get him the ball. And you just don't want to give anybody any kind of advantage there. And that ship has sailed for the Packers and Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
So, Rick, does he break the record or does he score?
I think he scores in Brazil.
In Brazil.
Yeah, week 1. I think they don't let him break the record. Yeah.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
I'm going to say that he does break the record. I'm going to say he doesn't score that touchdown.
Ooh. How much do you think he breaks the record by? Are we talking a couple of receptions? Are we talking like
I'm going to say
lot more receptions?
I'm going to say he breaks the record by 10.
Oh, okay. So like 211, 212-ish, right around there.
I think once he breaks the record, there won't be an emphasis on it. So he'll probably get like 10 more receptions because at that point it doesn't matter.
That's a good point.
But yeah, it'll be just one more reason to be excited for Friday, the day after Thursday. Dude, I am so excited for football. I'm starting to get butterflies. Like, I don't let myself get this excited.
Yeah.
Because it's like you don't want to get excited for something and then have to wait a long time. But I'm finally getting to that point where I'm allowing myself to start getting excited.
Yeah, I'm getting excited too, man. I'm just getting diarrhea every day, so I'm super excited for the NFL season.
Wait, you're wait, what's happening? What did you say? You're
No, I'm just getting excited. That's all, dude. That's all I said. I don't know what you're talking about.
And then you're getting what?
Nothing. I'm just getting excited.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
Thank you guys to everyone who tuned in to today's episode. That was the Chives. Thank you guys so much. New show sponsors, Imodium. I love that. Bill with the comment. I love it.
Comments. Heads or tails, Bill? Heads. It's always
said heads. He said heads. Heads never fails, he said. Tails always fails. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. We finally have finished the AFC division in terms of deep diving and calling out our division predictions. Next week, we're going to be doing the NFC. Kyle and I will probably either decide on it or we'll pull out a poll. So make sure if we do put out a poll, make sure to vote in that. And then
if we do pull out, vote on it.
I was like, pull out a poll. pull out a pull.
You pull out a pole. I don't. But diarrhea. I don't. You need to call it a night, Rick.
If you got some Imodium, please make sure to take advantage of that.
Send it
But
to
thank
Rick.
you guys. Thank you guys. Yeah, we're gonna be starting the NFC next week, and then we are just much closer to the Hall of Fame game with the Bears and the Texans, preseason football, Hard Knocks, just more previews into this upcoming season of football starting in August. And that's just going to be super exciting. So we are so close, 50 days away, I think, from what I read on the NFL.com. So we are extremely close to the start of the 2024 NFL season. And I could not be more excited, but make sure to go follow us on X, even though we can't stream on there right now because Elon Musk is kind of an asshole. But go follow us on X. You could follow me at And Now Rick right down there. Kyle, you could go follow Kyle at NFL with Kyle. And make sure to go check out our YouTube pages as well, right there at Yo, I'm Rick, Kyle at Kyle Kitzman, and then go follow us on Twitch. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to tell your friends, tell people on the street, anybody you see wearing a jersey of a team in the NFL, make sure to tell them about us because we're getting close to 1,000 subscribers. And again, we're going to be opening up super chats, the membership stuff, hopefully early August. Within the second week of August, we're going to be restarting all that. But again, thank you guys for tuning in. Kyle, you got anything else before we get out of here?
It's my brother's birthday on the East Coast. So happy birthday to Tyler. He is July 19th, and it is midnight on the East Coast, and he is 32 years old. I'm 32 years old. I'll be 30 in a couple of weeks. Here we go.
I can't believe I'm older than him. That's insane. Happy birthday, Tyler. Happy birthday, Tyler. Happy birthday, brother T. From us.
Take a picture. Send it to him. Oh wait, hold on. It was a live picture, and we were.
Oh, you dumb motherfucker!
Come on. Got it.
Hell yeah, let's go. Happy birthday, brother T, from all of us here at the Only Football Podcast. Again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back on Monday night, if not Tuesday, but we will let you guys know for sure. Kyle, always a good time, brother.
Always a good time.
See ya.